Hi, this is Alex with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters. I'm here today to talk about the June coffee for our club members, a great coffee from Bolivia. Check it out. So as a reminder for everyone, the club coffee program is something where members of the club get a 12-ounce bag of a club members only coffee every month. They get to choose a different roast level and receive a bunch of extra information and detail about the coffee itself, the roast process, and who it might be a really great fit for. We've been doing this club program for about 4 years now, and it's always a really fun way for us to explore some off the path different sorts of coffees. So if this is something that you're interested in joining, every once in a while we have an open slot and we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to take part in this program. So this month we have a wash process coffee from Bolivia. We've had a Bolivian coffee a couple times in the club, I think maybe once or twice before this one. And this is a fun Central American coffee that is a little bit different than normal Central American coffees we'll normally see. They have some similarities to other Central American coffees, Guatemala and Costa Rica, Panamanian coffees, and other things like that. But they have a unique characteristic to them that generally tends to be on the sweeter, richer, lower acidity side of things that just have some very different speeds to them than other Central American flavors do. We've never actually featured a Bolivian coffee in our regular rotation, and every time I've had one of these coffees in the club, I sort of think, this would be a really great addition for our regular shelf type of things because they just have a different overall feel to them than other coffees out of Central America that we have generally featured in our lineup. So this month we have our usual light, medium, and dark. And I want to go through each of these three individually like usual, but I really want to call out that the light roast this month is generally not going to be my favorite. And what I saw in each of these three coffees was that the smell of the coffee was a very stark contrast to the taste in every case. And not to say that the smell and the taste were markedly different, but there were some very different things that came out of each of the three. And I think the light roast is the best example of that. So on the light roast side, the smell of the coffee itself had a very nutty, citrusy, sweet kind of feel to it, a brown sugar, hint of spice sort of element. But once we actually got down to sitting and tasting the coffee, this is where the taste of that light roast was just far and away very different than what the smell kind of led me on to thinking. The taste was almost like a green, smelling a bag of peas. Had a very green quality to it, something that I have to be honest, I really wasn't into. And I don't really know if there's anyone in the club that was going to be interested in trying this one. So this month I'm going to recommend that people stay away from the light roast. It just had a kind of a raw characteristic to it that once you get down to tasting the coffee, I don't think is going to be a really good fit for anyone. Just like I said, very vegetal, green pea, kind of an earthy tone to it as well. There might be someone that would really be interested in the light roast coffee this month, but I'm going to really try to steer people away. I think the smell and the taste, just two very different things. And I was not impressed by the light roast at all. And I don't really know what to account for that. It was quite unexpected, to be honest. The medium roast, on the other hand, the smell has something that had kind of that chocolatey, creamy, vanilla kind of feel to it that was not unexpected for a Bolivian coffee. I really did like the kind of floral tones to this too. It wasn't as strong of a floral flavor as we see out of a Guatemalan sort of coffee, but it almost had like an orange creamsicle sort of citrusy element to it. Maybe not quite like actually eating one of those old style orange creamsicle sorts of frozen treats, but it kind of gave me that that feel for that's what was going on here. The taste itself was a very pleasant, like honey kind of tint to it as well. Some cases it sort of reminded me a little bit of a Costa Rican coffee with that honey flavor. Had a pretty mild but noticeable lemon tint as well. And there was a kind of like a hint of earthiness, a little bit of an acidic bite, not super strong, so it's not going to be like an African coffee in the acidity, but it'll definitely kind of hit you a little bit once you take a swallow of this coffee. And I saw a kind of pleasant caramel brown sugar sort of flavor to the medium roast as well. I think the medium roast this month was an exotic, interesting, very different kind of flavor of coffee. Definitely not what I expected, and I think there's a level of complexity to this, which especially for a wash process coffee, the medium roast is definitely my winner this month, although the dark roast is a pretty close second too. So I like the medium quite a bit. I think the variation of flavor and that sweet overall complexity that I saw in the medium roast was a real winner this month too. On the dark roast side, this is where we conventionally move into more of the roasty characteristics for any coffee in the club. It still retained a lot of the original flavor characteristics compared to especially the medium. This month on the dark roast side, the actual grounds themselves had kind of that creamy consistency too, similar to the medium roast, kind of a marshmallow tint. It reminded me at points of the dark roast of Nicaraguan coffees that we have both as part of our blends and as we've had as part of the Coffee Club program. Had a kind of a nice vanilla tint to it as well. This wasn't the strongest dark roast that we've had in the club. Definitely if you're a person that is always kind of tinkering a little bit with a dark roast characteristic or dark roast profile, but you maybe don't want a dark roast that's really thick and heavy, this will be a really great change of pace, and I think will be a welcome change for trying something a little bit darker too. The taste itself had kind of a pleasant chocolatey, graham crackery sort of feel. Reminded me a little bit at points of something that we might have seen from Panama or El Salvador for a dark roast, and a little bit of a kind of spice, nutmeg, grainy sort of characteristic too. I thought the medium and the dark had that like little bit of a hint of a spice kind of quality to it that though they were similar, the dark roast generally takes on a little bit of a heavier characteristic, a little bit more of a thicker, richer mouthfeel. And I think this month, the dark roast is definitely a close second to me compared to the medium. If you're a person that just likes that conventional dark roast, this is going to be a really nice kind of pleasant change of pace. A lot of character, a lot of robustness to this. Not the heaviest coffee that we've had for a dark roast. And I tried to keep the dark roast not super dark this month either. So it's not going to really hit you over the head with a level of complexity or heaviness to it either. So as far as the way that these three coffees roasted, really the only kind of difference between this and some other roasts that we've done in the past is that they didn't spend as much time in the development phase as they usually would for the three different levels. And that might actually account for some of the underdeveloped flavor in the light roast. So usually the light, medium, and dark roast characteristics, they have a certain amount of time they spend in what's known as the development phase, meaning the phase after the coffee hits from first crack to when it's popped out of the roaster. And it had a little bit of a shorter percentage of the overall roast in all three roast levels in the development phase. So there's a very likely possibility that the light roast, if it was allowed to develop a little bit more into being a bigger percentage of the roast, that it might not have had that kind of earthy vegetal flavor that I just didn't really care for. But that's where we ended up with that light roast this month, and as a consequence, that's maybe a little bit of what factored into it. So interesting coffee overall. I really love Bolivian coffees. Every time I do this, I kind of get another sense that this might be a really great coffee for a regular shelf as well. So I hope you get a chance to try one of these three if you're a member of the club, and if you're interested, just feel free to reach out. We've always got a new spot every once in a while, and I hope to catch you next month for another great club coffee video. Take care.